Hi, everybody, and welcome to AutismBC Talks. My name is Jake Anthony. I'm the Program Ambassador for AutismBC, and today I'm glad to be joining you from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples of the Musqueam, Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh. And today I'm going to be talking with Sharon Grattan, who's our Northern BC Regional Coordinator. And I just want to let everybody who's watching know that we'll have about a 20-minute interview, and if you have any questions, you can just type that into the comment box below, and we'll endeavor to answer your questions as soon as possible as soon as we're done with the interview. So with that, Sharon, welcome. It's great to have you, and over to you.
Hi, Jake. Thank you for welcoming me today. I'm looking forward to having the chance to talk to you and connect with families through Facebook. I am joining you from Prince Rupert in Northern BC. We are on Little Island, Kayan Island, and I am the Northern Regional Coordinator for all of Northern BC. I've been in this role since January, and it's been an amazing experience. I've been connecting with families through some of our opportunities, like our virtual coffee meetups. We have a Tuesday virtual coffee meetup that happens 10 a.m. on Tuesdays, and it's something that parents can join in on, and it gives them the opportunity to have a place to connect with other families and have that social experience through virtual means. So I just wanted to let parents know that we do have those opportunities, and I really would love to see families from the North coming in on the virtual coffee meetups. And we'll be able to provide information for those meetups in the comment section, and we also have more information on it on our Facebook page and our website.
Wonderful, thank you. So if maybe you could start just by telling us kind of a bit about your autism journey.
Okay. My autism journey began with my oldest son. He is autistic. Our journey began when he was a toddler, and we lived on Vancouver Island previously. It took almost 8 years for him to receive his diagnosis. It was the day before his 8th birthday. And when he received his diagnosis, it was with some other co-occurring conditions. We did receive our diagnosis privately through a clinician on Vancouver Island. And through those years of going through the process of understanding what it looks like to get an assessment, I learned that you need to be an advocate, and if you suspect that there is something going on, to not let those concerns be dismissed. Our journey was a long journey, and we did face a lot of challenges through getting the assessment. But with those challenges, I felt that I needed to be an advocate. And I think often parents do feel that their voice is not being heard. And one of my justifications in pursuing a role like this is to be a person that will connect families and help caregivers navigate through the process of getting an assessment and what it looks like after assessment and designation.
No, that's great. And, that's something definitely, I can appreciate that. My mother very much had to advocate for me in my earlier days, before I was able to advocate for myself as a person on the spectrum. So,
Right.
Your son's very lucky to have, a mother who's, who recognizes the importance of having that advocacy and of being that involved, right? And not just, leaving it to fate, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, what's it like living in the North as a autism parent or as a autistic individual?
Northern BC does have its own unique set of challenges. We are a large community. We are a remote community. There are great distances between our communities. And because of that, we do find that it is difficult to attract service providers and supports to the region. I know that it is common for many families in the North to receive a late diagnosis for their child. And I do understand that it's incredibly frustrating to feel that you're not being heard, or that it is really difficult to understand the process involved in getting a diagnosis. So, with being in the North, just even there's really big challenges around just distance alone, and trying to navigate through those challenges can be very difficult. So I think a big part of the challenge is just geographically that it is a very large region, and that there are big distances between each of the communities. So I think living in each of our communities and being a parent with a child on the spectrum, it can look very, very different in each of the communities.
Yeah, no, and it's, something that I found, definitely here living in the lower mainland is that, everything's so close together, right? Everybody kind of is connected in some way because, Burnaby's near Vancouver and New West is near.
Yes.
So it's kind of, it's easier to be able to network, right? And to get to know people. So no, that's, yeah, I can see how that's a bit more of a challenge up north where things are a bit more remote, right? Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's one of the biggest challenges is just the geographic distances and accessing those supports, and that there may be supports in some communities, but then to actually go and access those supports in those communities can be very difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of, maybe you've kind of touched on that a bit, but what do you think is needed in the North for the autism community to, support people, I guess, especially with those kind of remote conditions?
Right. Yeah, so the North definitely has some major needs when it comes to the autism community. I think one of the biggest needs is just even general awareness on autism, and that there is not that general awareness within the communities of what it is, and that there are 1 in 40 individuals in BC with autism, and understanding how to support and provide the resources for those individuals. I would say the second part of that is just overall the acceptance piece on understanding why it is important for communities to be inclusive to autistic individuals. And I guess to kind of continue on that, because there isn't the awareness and partially the acceptance piece, there are some major service gaps, and the wait time within the North is over 2 years right now for parents that are looking to get an assessment done for their child. So there is just a really big challenge around figuring out what the supports and services look like, and just waiting for those supports and services from a parent perspective of, where do I need to go to get an assessment done? For people even from my community in Prince Rupert, you're having to go to Prince George, which is an 8-hour drive away, to get an assessment done. So there's some great distances and really big challenges, and there is a definite need for more regional supports and services within each of our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember when I was diagnosed when I was 4. We just hopped in the car and went 40 minutes away to Sunny Hill Hospital over in Vancouver. I can't imagine driving 8 hours just to get an assessment, or just to see a specialist or somebody who can provide that that support. So that's wow. Yeah, I'm learning something here in terms of the geographical difference here. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's there's communities that have some more services, but then it's most often the geographic distance that is a very big barrier for families to access those services. And there's also challenges around just even attracting private service providers to the north, that we don't really have private service providers in the north. We seem to have services for the age of under 6, and then once the children go into the school system, there is a very heavy reliance on families using the school districts for support. So they're using the SLP, the OT, even behavior interventionists are coming within the school system to provide those supports. But outside of the district, there are not private service providers here. There are very, very few in most of the community. So it is a very big challenge. And many families in the past would access services in Vancouver, but with the pandemic, it's been extremely difficult. So they're going without services.
Yeah, and hopefully that's something that and hopefully we can learn from the pandemic, right? That especially in times of emergencies where people get even more cut off, right, from other communities and from other supports, that it's even more vital to have these kinds of supports in place. So, in terms of yeah. So, what are some of your visions and kind of aspirations for the North? And I know you've kind of touched a bit on that, but just in terms of, I guess, how to better support people, or
Yeah, and I think that is a really big piece of this, that like looking at the pandemic, we've seen now that some families are now able to access services through virtual. That's been somewhat of a silver lining, that there are services available in the North now that previously were not. And we are hoping to attract more service providers that are willing to utilize virtual means to connect with families. But for some families, that's just not a realistic approach for their child, that the virtual means may not be an effective way to provide services. So I ultimately envision for the North is that there is more connectedness between the communities. There's more communication, understanding what services do exist, and if there's ways that we can broaden the service reach of what currently exists. I would love the ability to attract more service providers to our region, whether or not that is on a permanent basis, on a rotational basis, or even just on a temporary, because there are some major needs in the North, and many families have voiced that they feel often the only solution is to relocate and move closer to a major urban center to get those services. And they're leaving their homes, they're leaving their social connections, their families, and it shouldn't have to be a choice where they're choosing between getting the supports and the services they need for their child versus being in a community that they love and having the support from a social perspective. So I think there fundamentally is a very big need in the North to have overall more supports and services and more understanding of the challenges that we face as a large northern region.
Yeah, definitely. I that's what I've heard too. Through my work with Autism BC, as well as with, I think, just in from the autism community in general, is that the more, I guess, more dense populated kind of like the Lower Mainland, areas kind of get more of a focus in terms of resources and supports and services, and then kind of the interior and the North sometimes get left out, right? So it's important, I think, to have somebody like you who's really advocating for more for change in the North, right, and for better services and just more accessible services, so that people don't have to pull up stakes and move to a different part of the province to get what they need, right? So
exactly.
So how do you?
Yep, sorry, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So how do you think Autism BC, or your role as the Northern Regional Coordinator, could help in making this a reality?
Well, I think part of my role is it's connecting with family. So we do offer the social connection, like the Tuesday morning coffee meetups, where it's an opportunity for me to connect with families and really get feedback from them of what what their experience is, what their challenges are, and then taking those experiences and those challenges and sharing that knowledge. And I would like to then take that experience and that knowledge and share it with service providers and connect with CDCs within the region, MCFDs, and really share what families are experiencing and have that overall just communication and partnering and working together to help support the North. And that's really ultimately what I do envision for the North, is just overall more supports, more services, and more connectedness within the communities.
Well, that's fantastic, and I really think that you're a great person to do that work. Because you come from you come from a background of not only working with a lot of different nonprofits, but also having the lived experience of being a parent, right, of somebody on the spectrum. So I mean, you really have that appreciation of not only what's currently in place, but what needs to be in place, right? And that's something that, yeah. So you bring a really valuable perspective. So just before we close off, is there anything kind of like comments or any kind of messages or anything that you want to kind of leave people with? Or
okay, I think if there are any service providers out there, behavior interventionists, SLPs, OTs, that are potentially interested in working in the North, I would love to connect with you and know what their approach might be to servicing the North, and if there are ways that we can work together to help get the supports and supports in place for the families here. Because I think there is just an overall challenge of, if a family is looking to get an OT, they're having to go to great distances and they're not necessarily getting that on a consistent basis. So it would be great to have service providers that are willing to work in the North and work in the North on a very consistent basis.
Definitely, and I just want to say it's you've been with us for a couple of months, but you've just been doing so much wonderful work, and it's a pleasure to work with you, and I'm looking forward to working with you more as we move forward, and hopefully as we get out of the pandemic, things get a bit easier for the families and the people that we support. But I think, like you said, I think that the pandemic's kind of shown us where we have some geographical inequities and just some inequities in terms of that that we're not necessarily as a society maybe being as inclusive and as welcoming as maybe we should. But I'm really glad that we have somebody like you joining us to make that a reality. So yeah.
Right. Thank you, Jake. That's really wonderful to hear, and I think the entire team at AutismBC is incredible, and everyone within the organization is doing incredible work, and really ultimately here to help support the families and make it a more inclusive community overall, all of BC, and really empower autistic individuals within the communities. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah. All the best, and for everybody who's watching, like I said, if you've left questions in the chat, myself or one of the AutismBC team members will definitely work to get back to you. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in with us today, and Sharon, thank you once again. And with that, everybody, stay safe and be well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.